for example, the issue of allowing the wider society to be educated as a result of our experiences in the past by way of memorialization. This is something right now my office is embarking on setting up the Counterterrorist Center, a physical structure, but it is also our desire to put up a counterterrorist museum which will become a national monument to all those who have suffered, and then to also be a reference point for the young Nigerians in understanding this terrible, dreadful phenomenon we are faced with. Of course, banditry in itself is isolated from acts of terror. And like Dr. Chris said, the main difference is that while terrorism is motivated, it is propelled, it is subsidized and enhanced by issues of ideology, especially poisoned extremist ideologies, as we see today in this century, especially this deadly Islamic way of thinking, which is nurtured by virtue of the fact that it is being delivered by, near illiterates, clerics who assume the position of having knowledge of the scriptures but are basically illiterate. So on the one hand, while terrorism is being motivated by some poisoned extremist ideology, like Dr. Chris said, banditry and other associated acts of criminality are purely engendered by the desire, the lust for profit, personal enrichment, enhancement. And it seeks opportunities, the slightest opportunity. Like my people say, it's when there's a crack in the wall that the lizard is able to push itself through. So what is happening is that while terrorism is activated by more coordinated efforts to weaken the resolve, the psychology of the larger society, to imperil the ordinary person as well as governmental structures, for banditry, it is an act that is purely motivated by the desire for one to satisfy those basic human instincts. But here is the catch. Both of them have the same effect on society. And in terms of banditry, because the type of banditry we're experiencing in Nigeria is not banditry as it's been known throughout history, isolated cases in different places. It is now a phenomenon. It's like a world storm. It's like a hurricane coming not just in very large numbers, affecting a whole large swathe of territory. It is that effect it has on the people that has encouraged other acts of terror, which we must deal with. And finally, I must also say that, of course, the solution as far as we're concerned, just like my colleague here said, does not really lie in the kinetic effort. As far as I'm concerned, the non-kinetic effort is even more important, and this is something we'll continue to work on.
Thank you. Finally for this session, not finally in the general lecture. Please, a round of applause for him. It's quite instructive to know that there will be a...
whereby the threat is such that it can never be addressed purely by what we refer to as kinetic, military, or operational approaches. It's almost impossible, and that is due to several reasons. Society has evolved to such an extent that not just the government itself, but even the local communities have access to what ordinarily they wouldn't have had a couple of years ago, especially things like the social media platforms and other things. And therefore, it becomes very, very critical in addressing whatever problem, be it terrorism or banditry, to involve the most effective instrument. And the most effective instrument is intelligence. Yes, intelligence comes in various ways. You can have human intelligence, you can have technical intelligence, you can have cyber intelligence, all kinds of intelligence, cyber intelligence. But the most appropriate and immediate form of intelligence is that human intelligence, which you derive from the local community. And you see, I don't know whether we're still suffering from the vestiges of our past experience of autocratic, governance. Whatever it is, we need to first of all realize that the most important actor is the person in the community, the local community. For as long as agents of government decide to disenfranchise or alienate the local community, then you are depriving yourself of the most important oxygen, which is intelligence from the local community. And history is replete with so many examples. The United States of America had a serious problem during the Vietnam War, especially in South Vietnam, because it did not have an understanding of what the local community can give it, by way of intelligence. It happened to the British in Greece, in Malaya. It happened to the French in Algeria. So this is not a new thing, but what we need to do is to understand, to learn from the experiences of those developed countries in dealing with this problem which is plaguing us. Intelligence also is the driver of operations. No matter how much we spend on defense forces, land, air, maritime components, for as long as they do not have that relevant intelligence, the type of intelligence that is critical, then they'll just be like three blind men operating in a dark environment. You can imagine what that amounts to. And again, when I say intelligence, intelligence comes in various layers. Apart from the mainstream intelligence, military intelligence, external intelligence, internal intelligence, and all that, you also have intelligence from other organizations, from border security agencies, constabulary, elements. You have intelligence coming in from the agricultural sector, from everywhere. But all these things must be fused together. The aggregate of all the information you have must be acted upon. Now, the problem we have in our own situation, and it is very important we understand this, intelligence in itself has a very, very short shelf life. So from the moment you get your intelligence, if the operational elements do not respond with the speed it requires, that intelligence becomes stale, and then it compounds, it adds to the layers of problems that will come in later. But you must continue to pursue with vigor, relentlessly, the local person in the community, whether it is the people who are selling food on the streets, whether it is the local vendors, whether it is even in the religious, institutions. It is important. One thing I can tell you is that Nigeria is very, very rich, in intelligence, but poor in information. To convert it to actionable information is what we need to do. And we can never achieve any success without working together with the local community. And therefore, our approach must be such that we view everything from one, point of view. We can't, like one of my colleagues said, have different approaches to dealing with this thing. Government alone can never, never, ever achieve any success without the wider society to which it has some kind of legitimate accountability. So it is important. And again, traditional institutions are also a source for intelligence. But once you do not respond to intelligence quickly, there's a problem. And finally, there's a problem of informants, whether we like it or not. Informants exist in large numbers. And for whatever motivation, it could be for pecuniary reasons. you know, and this is what your enemy will continue to exploit. Those people along the roads, Damaturu to Gaidam, Gaidam to Potiskum, Potiskum to Marte, to Monguno, to Kukawa, and all the way down, you know, to the west, to the center, to the south. That is what our forces need to look at. That is what they need to work on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very detailed. Thank you. And it's also an expose. Dr. Ruth brings us back to what you were saying earlier, and I'm coming to you because I know